Hi everybody and welcome. My name is Rob Cox. I'm the Director of Winemaking here at Paradise Springs. Valentine's Day is fastly approaching. You know what that means. It's time for our wine and chocolate pairing. This is an annual tradition we've always done here at Paradise Springs, and we've kind of figured out a clever way to continue this during the pandemic, that you'll get the takeaway chocolates with you in our usual wine flight caddy, so you can go off and still to continue and enjoy this annual pairing that we do. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our first wine. Our first wine is your palate cleanser wine. So we have 6 wines in total, 5 chocolates. So you're going to actually start with our recently disgorged Après Rosé sparkling wine. We haven't had a sparkling wine in a while, and we've brought back sparkling into our program here, and it's going to continue. So you're going to just do this one on its own, enjoy it, appreciate it. It's, sparkling. It's got good acidity, the effervescence of the bubbles will help kind of cleanse your palate, wake your palate up to get into a lot of these deep, rich flavors as we move farther along into the wine flight. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a sniff and a taste. Very bright, very low dosage. The dosage is the amount of sugar added back into this wine as it's being disgorged to adjust the acidity. We want to keep this one very bright and clean and fresh, and that's what this one is. A lot of like wild strawberry flavors on this one. Maybe even a little bit of like a tart cherry note comes through, a lot of red fruits, but it's really fresh, really fruit forward, really bright, good acidity. And I feel like sparkling like this, a lot of times you think of it as like an aperitif to start a meal to cleanse your palate, which is what we're doing with it here. A lot of people think of it at the end of something to celebrate, but it's also, most sparklings are very underrated with the amount of fruits that they'll actually pair and go well with. So like I said, we're using this one just to kind of get the palate going before we get into a lot of these rich flavors in the chocolate and the wines. So with that, go ahead and hit pause and finish the rest of your sparkling and enjoy it, and then we'll get started with the first wine that's paired with the chocolate. Hey everybody, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the sparkling as your palate cleanser. As you can see, as I alluded to in the first part of the video, it definitely gets your palate awake with the good acidity and the effervescence. With that, we'll go ahead and get started with the first wine and chocolate pairing. We're going to start with the 2019 Chardonnay. And with this one, we're tasting through a couple different chocolates, and we settled in on something we haven't done before, something we had thought about. This is actually a chocolate Thai iced tea. The main flavors in this one is going to be the milk chocolate and then the Thai iced tea. So let's go ahead. I always recommend starting with a little sip of the wine, kind of get that flavor on your palate. Then we'll take a bite of the chocolate, and then we'll go back to the wine, and then we'll talk about how each is pairing off each other. And that's really the thing that we're trying to highlight here, is what the chocolate is drawing out of the wine, what the wine's drawing out of the chocolate, that yin and yang, why food and wine, when they're paired well, make each other better. So let's go ahead and take a little sip of the Chard. Okay, you get that flavor in your palate, kind of get it, swish it around, coat your whole palate. We'll go ahead and take a bite of the chocolate. Chocolate's delicious, by the way. And then go back and have a sip of the wine. And this is the format that we'll continue as we move through the wine and chocolate pairing. So for me, the tea component of this has a floral component that works really well with the citrus notes in the wine. So think about like a bergamot tea that has like that citrus note on it that kind of pulls out the floral aspects in the wine from the tea component in this. And using the milk chocolate component of this chocolate, it's a little bit softer, a little bit creamier than a dark chocolate, not as bitter, so it kind of works better with a white wine like this that's seen some oak. I'm feeling a dark chocolate with this Chardonnay, it would really make each other, the chocolate would really make the Chardonnay a lot more bitter on the finish. So in between the creaminess of the milk chocolate and the floral notes and the Thai iced tea, pulling out the citrus notes in the wine, that's why we kind of went with this pairing. We hope you enjoy it. With that, go ahead and hit pause, enjoy the rest of your chocolate and the rest of your wine in this flight, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the next wine. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started with the next wine, the flight. The next wine is our 2019 Saumon Blanc. This is our off-dry white wines for those who aren't familiar with this wine. So you're going to definitely pick a little bit of residual sugar. However, no oak on this wine. It's entirely fermented and aged in stainless steel. You know, good acidity even though it has some sweetness. It's well balanced, which also makes it very versatile to pair with a number of chocolates and foods. With this one, we went with a caramel coconut. I mean, it's basically 3 ingredients. In this one, it's caramel, coconut milk, and coconut in this one. So I think once you get into the wine, you see some of the tropical notes that this one has from the Vidal Blanc grape fermented in stainless. It will kind of pull out some of those same, you know, tropical coconut notes that the chocolate's made from. So let's go ahead and take a sip of the Saumon. And again, get it all swished around your mouth and, you know, really aerate it and appreciate all the flavors and aromas of it. Let's have a taste of the chocolate. And this is one of my favorite pairings as we were trying to decide on this. I think the little bit of sweetness and that caramel really brings to the chocolate actually works well with the amount of sweetness and acidity that's in the Saumon. And then the coconut notes, which really come on after the caramel, really work well with the tropical notes that are in this wine. I mean, you know, just think like a pina colada. You get like the pineapple notes in it and the coconut notes, and we're kind of doing this with the chocolate and wine. And this is a milk chocolate also, so it kind of, you know, doesn't bring out any bitterness in the wine also. So I hope you enjoy this one also. Go ahead and hit pause as you finish up, and then we'll get started with the red part of the flight. All right, let's get started with the red part of the flight. This one we're doing our 2018 Cab Franc. You know, it's one of our best-selling wines here at the winery. It's our lightest red wine of our Virginia wines. Always really smooth, a lot of good red fruit notes to it and a little bit of earthiness, and that's just true of Cab Franc in Virginia. With this one, we've paired a hazelnut chocolate. You know, you got the milk chocolate, the hazelnut, praline, and graham cracker with this one. So some of those secondary notes, the praline and the graham cracker, should go well with a little light touch of oak that's on this wine. The hazelnut nuttiness should go well with the earthiness in this Cab Franc. Let's go ahead and give a taste of the Cab Franc. Now a bite of the chocolate. Yeah, and just as I alluded to earlier, you know, milk chocolate too, this not having a lot of tannins in it. If it did, you know, it would be better with a dark chocolate, but this being a lighter wine, it works a little bit better with the milk chocolate. The hazelnut is really the dominant flavor that comes out, the nuttiness, and it does work well with the earthiness that is inherent in Cab Franc. And then those red fruits, the cherry notes of this really work well with and draw out the graham cracker and praline notes that have really, you know, work well with the light oak touch that's on this wine. As we get into some of these reds, we're getting a little bit heavier oak, but this one is well balanced with this wine. So go ahead and enjoy this one, hit pause, and then we'll go ahead and come back for the next red. Okay, let's move on to the next red. The next red is our 2016 Moment. This is one of our new flagship Bordeaux wines. For those who are not familiar with this wine, it's a Bordeaux blend. It has 4 varieties in it: Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. Spends a lengthier time in oak, so you're definitely going to get some more oak notes and some more of that oak structure on it. This wine is drinking well now. It will age well also. And with this one, I think was one of the easiest pairings as we were going through and deciding pretty much what I like to call a slam dunk pairing. This is with dark chocolate and a raspberry, and that's basically what the chocolate is: dark chocolate and raspberry. The toastier oak notes in this are going to work well with that dark chocolate, and the red raspberry will just work well with the good fruit and underlying notes of red fruit and some black fruits in this wine with the Petit Verdot that's blended in it. So let's go ahead and give it a try. And onto the chocolate. Yeah, I can make the assumption now. I think this will probably be one of most of you's favorite pairing of the The tasting, it really is just spot on. You know, the dark chocolate brings some depth and bitterness with some of the toastier notes of oak on this wine. And this wine's still balanced, the oak's there, but it's not overpowering. A lot of the breadfruit comes across, which just works well with the raspberry notes that are in this one. Raspberry itself lends to pair well with most medium to heavy body red wines. Yeah, and I think just the little bit of sweetness of this wine kind of really smooths out the finish on the moment and makes it even silkier and smoother than it is on its own. All right, it's time to hit pause again, and then you can finish up this pairing, and then we'll get back to the last pairing of the chocolate wine pairing. All right, it's time to finish up our chocolate and wine flight. We're going to finish with one of our small batch wines, our Swagger, which is our port style wine. For those who are familiar with this wine, they know that the unique part of this wine that it is aged in used bourbon barrels. So that like toastier, caramelized note, almost butterscotch, vanilla note is definitely apparent in this wine. That's why we went ahead and paired this one with a caramelized dark. And this one is dark chocolate, caramelized sugar, just like the charring inside the barrel is caramelizing the sugar and the oak, and vanilla. And I think this is was a very easy pairing for us as we were trying to decide on chocolate with this wine. So let's go ahead and try the Swagger. It's fortified, so it's pretty volatile. You know, meaning that it jumps out of the glass at you aromatically, and on the palate, it's pretty robust. Let's go ahead and take a bite of the chocolate. Yeah, this Swagger, it's not the sweetest port you ever have, for sure. You know, it is sweet, it's supposed to be, it's that style of wine, but the little bit of sweetness that's in this chocolate and the dark chocolate bitterness really balance out the sweetness of this wine. And then that caramelized sugar note and vanilla note really draw out the bourbon barrel essence of this wine from the aging in used bourbon barrels. And then you got the red fruit that is the Chambourcin grape that this wine is made from, that really just pulls everything together and makes this another, you know, easy, well enjoyable pairing. So with that, we're glad you went ahead and came out and joined us for our annual Valentine's Push wine and chocolate pairing that we do every year, and we were happy to be able to figure out a way to get it to you guys with the pandemic currently going on. And we hope you enjoyed it, and you know, maybe you found something here if you've never been here before that you can take away from and take some wine home with you. So once again, thanks again for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this, and we look forward to doing this next year.